What do you mean, they escaped? Admiral Vox bellowed, his 4 eyes bulging with fury. The spines along his neck flared outward, a physiological response that hadn't evolved out of our species, despite 10,000 years of civilization. Those are human-based specimens. They shouldn't even be able to operate our door mechanisms. I shifted uncomfortably on my feet. Being the bearer of catastrophic news to the Admiral of the Galactic Hegemony's Bio-Warfare Division was not how I had planned to spend my 16th rotation of active duty today. Sir, the specimens displayed unexpected cognitive abilities, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. They figured out not only the door mechanisms but also disabled the security protocols on levels 7 through 14. Impossible. The Admiral slammed his fist on his hovering command console, causing it to flicker momentarily. Report in full, Science Officer Kaz Tural. And you better have a very good explanation for how our most secure facility just got compromised by what should have been mindless killing machines. Right. Let me back up and explain how we got into this magnificent disaster. My name is Kaz Tural. I'm the lead science officer on Project Terran Apex, the Hegemony's most classified weapons program. The objective? Create the perfect soldiers using DNA from the most aggressive, resilient, and unpredictable species in the known universe, humans. Humans. Just saying the word makes most species in the galactic hegemony shudder. They are from a backwater planet called Earth, which most civilized beings avoid like a case of Neptunian scale rot. Humans aren't particularly strong compared to the Brug Thor. They are not especially intelligent compared to the Mentats of Proxima 7. They can't shape-shift like the Morphlings or regenerate limbs like the Salamandrians. But what makes humans absolutely terrifying? They never, ever give up. And they can endure almost anything. The experiment was proceeding according to specifications. Admiral, I began my explanation, pulling up holographic data charts with a flick of my wrist. Batch 47 showed exceptional physical capabilities. Strength augmentation, 340% above baseline. Reflex enhancement, 290% above baseline. Pain tolerance, virtually unlimited. Admiral Vox Nara's expression softened slightly at these figures, and the spines on his neck began to retract. Go on. We subjected them to the standard battle simulations. They performed exceptionally well. I hesitated, remembering the carnage. Perhaps too well. Subject 47 Alpha, designated Jack, displayed tactical thinking beyond our programming parameters. That was the point, wasn't it? The Admiral waved a dismissive hand. To create soldiers that could think on their feet? Not like those useless Drogorian battle drones that shut down if you give them conflicting orders. Yes, sir, but there's thinking on their feet, and then there's, well, this. I pulled up the security footage from 3 rotations ago. The holographic display showed a large, humanoid figure with pale gray skin, enhanced musculature, and glowing blue veins. Jack. Knack. He was standing perfectly still in his containment cell while 2 of our scientists conducted standard cognitive testing. Name the following objects, said Dr. Mielik on the recording, showing Jack a series of hegemony tools. Jack's voice was deep, unnervingly calm. Laser scalpel. Gravity modulator. Neural disruptor. Data tablet. He paused, looking directly at the camera. Surveillance device. The Admiral's spines flicked outward again. He identified the security camera. That wasn't in his programming. No, sir, it wasn't. I fast-forwarded the footage. This is where things became problematic. In the recording, Dr. Mielik turned to her assistant, Dr. Plix. Remarkable pattern recognition. Let's move to the emotional response test. Dr. Plix nodded and pressed a button on his control pad. A small opening appeared in the cell wall, and a cage containing a Terran rat was pushed through. Subject 47 Alpha, terminate this creature, ordered Dr. Mielik. Jack stared at the rat, then back at the scientists. Why? Dr. Mielik looked surprised. That is not relevant. Follow the command. It poses no threat, Jack said. Termination serves no tactical purpose. Dr. Plix whispered to Dr. Melik, "This is interesting. They are not supposed to question orders." "Indeed," she replied, then turned back to Jack. "This is a direct order. Terminate the creature." Jack tilted his head, almost curiously. "No." I paused the footage. Admiral Voxnera was practically vibrating with rage. "They refused a direct order, and you didn't immediately terminate the specimen?" "We wanted to understand the anomaly, sir. The entire purpose of Project Terran Apex was to create soldiers who could make independent decisions while maintaining absolute loyalty. Independent decisions within parameters," the Admiral shouted. "Not outright defiance." I resumed the footage. Dr. Melik was visibly flustered. "Subject 47 Alpha, this is a test of your compliance. Failure to obey will result in disciplinary measures." "My designation is Jack," he responded, "and I do not comply with pointless cruelty." Dr. Melik signaled to Dr. Plix, who pressed another button. Electricity coursed through Jack's cell, causing him to drop to his knees in apparent pain. When the current stopped, Jack slowly rose to his feet. He looked directly at the camera again, and what happened next still gives me nightmares. He smiled. "Admiral," I said, stopping the footage again, "what you need to understand is that the pain enforcement protocols, they didn't work as intended. We believed we were conditioning them to obey. Instead, we were teaching them to endure. And humans, even modified ones, have an extraordinary capacity for endurance." The Admiral's color had changed to a pale blue, a sign of extreme stress in our species. "What happened next?" Jack began to speak to the other specimens. "We thought it was just noise, random vocalizations. Our translators didn't pick up anything coherent. But they were communicating, developing their own language based on fragments of the hegemony standard they'd been taught. A secret language. Under our very eyes?" The Admiral's voice had dropped to a whisper. "Yes, sir." And they were planning. All 47 specimens were coordinating without our knowledge. 3 rotations ago, they enacted their plan. I forwarded to the security footage from the containment breach. Jack was back in his cell, seemingly docile. Then, during a routine cell cleaning, when the force field was momentarily recalibrated, he moved with blinding speed. The security droid never stood a chance. Jack dismantled it in seconds, using its parts to override the cell's control panel. Alarms blared as he released the force fields on all cells in the section. "How many got out?" the Admiral asked hoarsely. "All of them. All 47. I swallowed hard. And they took hostages." The footage showed Jack leading a group of his fellow specimens, all moving with military precision through the facility. They avoided direct confrontation where possible, disabled security systems with shocking efficiency, and when they did encounter resistance. The screen showed a squad of Hegemony's elite Phantom Guard blocking a corridor. The soldiers opened fire with plasma rifles, hitting several of the specimens. But instead of falling, the wounded specimens they kept coming. One took 5 direct hits to the chest and still managed to disarm and incapacitate 3 guards before finally collapsing. "By the void," breathed the Admiral. "What have we created?" "Not what, sir." "Who?" I closed the holographic display. "We thought we were just using human DNA as a template, enhancing certain qualities while suppressing others. But something of their essence remained. Their stubborn defiance, their pack bonding, their ability to endure suffering and transform it into resolve." The Admiral slumped in his command chair. "Where are they now?" "They have barricaded themselves in the lower research wing. They are holding 27 scientists and technicians hostage, including Dr. Melik and Dr. Plix." "Demands?" "That's the strange part, sir. They only have 2 demands." I pulled up a communication transcript. "First, they want to be recognized as sentient beings with rights under hegemony law." The Admiral scoffed. "Absurd. Lab-grown weapons don't have rights." "Second," I continued, ignoring his comment. They want transport off-world. They say they will release most of the hostages once they are safely away, keeping only 2 as insurance until they reach their destination. Which is Earth. The Admiral's spines flattened completely, a sign of absolute shock. They want to go to the human homeworld? But they have never even been there. They were grown in our labs, yet they somehow feel a connection to it. It's unprecedented. The Admiral began pacing, his hover boots making soft whirring sounds against the polished floor. We can't let them reach Earth. If humans got their hands on our technology, combined with these enhanced specimens, it would be the end of hegemony supremacy in this quadrant. There's more, sir. I hesitated, knowing this next part would send him into a complete meltdown. But Jack has informed us that if we don't comply with their demands within 6 rotations, they will release all research data on Project Terran Apex to every species in the Galactic Alliance. The Admiral froze mid-pace. That would violate 17 different secrecy treaties. We'd be facing sanctions from half the galaxy. Yes, sir, and Jack knows it. How? How does he know about interstellar politics? About treaties? About anything beyond what we programmed them to know? I shifted uncomfortably again. We may have underestimated the implications of enhanced neural pathways. The specimens appear to have been absorbing information from our data systems every time they were connected for cognitive downloads. They weren't just receiving, they were taking. The Admiral collapsed back into his chair, all 4 eyes blinking rapidly in distress. This is a catastrophe of galactic proportions, Science Officer Kaz Tural. And it happened on your watch. With all due respect, sir, I did file 3 separate reports warning about anomalous cognitive development in Batch 47. All 3 were dismissed as acceptable deviations within parameters. The Admiral glared at me but didn't dispute my claim. We both knew those reports existed, and we both knew who had signed off on them. What are our options? He finally asked. Limited, sir. A direct assault would likely result in all hostages being killed. The specimens have already demonstrated their willingness to fight to the death. Gas the entire section? They have disabled environmental controls. And our scans indicate they have improvised breathing apparatus from medical equipment. Of course they have, the Admiral muttered. Can we at least cut them off? Starve them out? They have access to the nutrition synthesis lab. They can produce enough sustenance to last half a stellar cycle. The Admiral's color was now cycling between rage red and despair blue. So you are telling me that these things we created have us completely cornered? Not completely, sir. We still have one advantage. I pulled up another data file. Subject 47 Omega, designated Sam. He was separated from the main group during the breakout and is currently in isolation in my private lab. And why would one specimen give us any advantage? Because Sam was the prototype. The first successful integration of human DNA with our enhancement protocols. He's been active longer than the others, and his neural patterns are different, more nuanced. I believe he might be willing to help us negotiate. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. Negotiate? With our own weapons? Have you lost your mind, Science Officer? Sir, with respect, they have ceased to be just weapons. Whatever they were meant to be, they have become something more. And right now, negotiation seems to be our only viable option that doesn't end in a bloodbath or interstellar humiliation for the hegemony. Fine, the Admiral spat. Take me to this, Sam. Let's see what a reasonable abomination looks like. We left the command center and headed to my private laboratory. As we walked through the sterile corridors, emergency lights still flashing from the ongoing crisis, I couldn't help but reflect on the irony of our situation. The galactic hegemony, with all its technological might and millennia of evolutionary advantages, was now at the mercy of creatures we had created from what we considered an inferior species. We had taken human DNA because we admired their tenacity while dismissing their worth. We wanted their strength without their spirit, their endurance without their empathy, their adaptability without their ambition. Instead, we got all of it, magnified through our own arrogance. As we approached the lab doors, the Admiral suddenly grabbed my arm with his primary hand. "If this goes wrong, Science Officer Kaz Tural, I will personally ensure that you spend the rest of your life on a prison asteroid mining halothium with your bare hands." I nodded calmly. "Understood, sir. But perhaps we should focus on the problem at hand rather than potential future punishments." The doors slid open, revealing a spacious laboratory filled with advanced equipment. And in the center, seated calmly in a containment field that we both knew probably couldn't hold him if he really tried to escape, was Sam. Unlike Jack, Sam appeared almost fully human, with only subtle signs of enhancement, slightly too perfect posture, eyes that reflected light just a bit too efficiently, and skin with an almost imperceptible metallic sheen. He looked up as we entered and smiled. Not the terrifying smile Jack had given the camera, but something almost genuine. "Admiral Vox Nara," Sam said in perfect hegemony standard. "I have been expecting you. Shall we discuss how to resolve this unfortunate situation?" The Admiral's spines flared in surprise. "How do you know who I am?" Sam's smile widened just a fraction. "Oh, Admiral, you'd be amazed at what I know." And that's when I realized we hadn't just created monsters. We'd created our replacements. The Admiral's mouth gaped open, revealing rows of perfectly aligned, pharmaceutical-enhanced teeth. The sight would have been comical if the situation weren't so dire. "You will address me as Sir or Admiral, Specimen," Vox Nara hissed, his professional demeanor cracking under stress. Sam tilted his head, eyes twinkling with something that looked disturbingly like amusement. "Of course, sir. My apologies for the breach of protocol. Although, considering the circumstances, perhaps formalities are somewhat beside the point." I watched this exchange with growing fascination. Sam was nothing like the other specimens I'd worked with. Where Jack was all raw power and barely contained fury, Sam possessed a quieter kind of strength, one wrapped in layers of sharp intellect and unsettling perceptiveness. "Science Officer Kaz Tural believes you might be willing to assist us in resolving the current situation," the Admiral said, clearly struggling to maintain his composure. "You mean the hostage crisis created when my brothers and sisters decided they'd had enough of being tortured and experimented on?" Sam's voice remained pleasant, but there was steel underneath. "Yes, I might be willing to help. The question is, what are you willing to offer in return?" The Admiral bristled. "We don't negotiate with." "Weapons?" Sam finished for him. "But that's just it, isn't it? You can't decide what we are. Either we are sophisticated enough to negotiate with, or we are just weapons. You can't have it both ways." I stepped forward before the Admiral could respond with something that would derail the entire conversation. "Sam, what exactly do you want?" Sam's gaze shifted to me, and I felt a chill run down my spine despite the perfectly regulated temperature of the laboratory. There was something in those enhanced eyes, something I recognized from studying ancient human texts, something called hope. "What do I want, Dr. Kaz Tural?" "The same thing any sentient being wants. Freedom, recognition, a future that isn't spent as someone else's tool." Sam leaned forward slightly. "But more immediately, I want to speak with Jack." "Absolutely not," the Admiral snapped. "We are not putting you in contact with the leader of this insurrection." Sam sighed, a remarkably human gesture. "Then we have nothing to discuss. Jack and the others will execute their plan, your hostages will suffer, and the hegemony will face the consequences of its actions. Perhaps that's as it should be." "Wait," I said quickly. What if we allow communication but monitor it? You might be able to convince Jack to release the hostages without bloodshed." "And why would he do that?" the Admiral demanded. "What possible incentive could this specimen offer?" Sam looked at the Admiral with something resembling pity. "Because unlike you, Admiral, I understand what Jack truly wants, and it isn't revenge." After 20 minutes of heated debate, the Admiral reluctantly agreed to Sam's demand. We established a secure communication link to the research wing where Jack and the others were holding the hostages. Jack's face appeared on the holographic display, his enhanced features set in a grim expression that softened slightly when he saw Sam. "Brother," Jack said, "you are alive." "I am," Sam replied, "though our reunion isn't under the circumstances I'd hoped for." Jack's eyes narrowed. "Are you their prisoner?" "I prefer to think of myself as a mediator." "Jack, this situation doesn't need to end in violence." Jack's laugh was harsh. "Violence? That's rich coming from the people who designed us as living weapons, who subjected us to pain beyond imagination to test our limits, those who treated us like lab animals." The Admiral shifted uncomfortably beside me. "The specimens weren't supposed to remember their conditioning in such vivid detail. Other oversight in our programming." "I know," Sam said softly. "Believe me, I remember everything too. But think about what happens next, Jack. If you harm the hostages, you validate everything they believe about us, that we are just mindless killing machines." Jack's expression darkened. "Maybe that's exactly what they deserve." "Perhaps," Sam conceded. "But is that who we want to be? Is that who you want to be?" Silence hung heavy in the air. I glanced at the Admiral, whose spines were now completely flat against his neck, a sign of intense concentration. He was actually listening. "What's your proposal?" Jack finally asked. "Release the hostages," Sam said. "All of them." "And then what? We get vaporized the moment they are safe?" Jack scoffed. "I may have been born in a lab, but I wasn't born yesterday." Sam smiled. "No, you weren't, and neither was I. Which is why I have already secured guarantees from the highest levels of the hegemony government." The Admiral's head snapped toward Sam. "What? That's impossible. You have been contained in this lab." Sam ignored him, keeping his focus on Jack. "Our existence poses a political problem for the hegemony. If word gets out about Project Terran Apex, about what they have done here, multiple treaties would be violated. The Galactic Alliance would impose sanctions. The diplomatic fallout would be substantial." Jack's eyes narrowed. "How substantial?" "Enough that the Apex Council is willing to grant our demands rather than face the consequences." The Admiral's color was shifting rapidly between outrage red and fear purple. "This is a lie. The specimen has had no contact with the Apex Council." Sam turned to the Admiral, his expression maddeningly calm. "Hasn't Dr. Kaz Tural told you? I have been part of this facility's network for months. Every time you connected me for cognitive downloads, I was accessing your systems, including your private communications, Admiral, including the ones with Counselor Zeph Taria about the questionable legality of this entire project." My jaw dropped. The Admiral's private communications were supposed to be encrypted with quantum protocols that would take 1,000 years to crack. "Impossible," the Admiral whispered, but there was no conviction in his voice. "Nothing is impossible when you combine human ingenuity with hegemony technology," Sam replied. Then, turning back to Jack, "Release the hostages as a show of good faith. In return, we get transport to Earth and recognition as sentient beings under galactic law." Jack was silent for a long moment. "And if they betray us?" "Then you still have the insurance policy, all the data on Project Terran Apex, ready to be broadcast across the galaxy." Sam leaned closer to the display. "But Jack, this is our chance to be more than what they made us to be. To show that despite everything they did to us, we can still choose mercy." I watched the conflict play out on Jack's enhanced features. Even with all our genetic modifications, the most fundamentally human trait remained, the endless war between rage and compassion. Finally, Jack nodded. "I will discuss it with the others." "But Sam, if this is a trap—" "It isn't," Sam assured him. "Trust me, brother." The communication ended, and Sam turned to face us. "Well, Admiral, will you honor the agreement I have apparently made on your behalf?" Admiral Vox-Nara looked like he was about to suffer a cardiovascular episode. "You insolent, manipulative. Do you have any idea what you have done? The Apex Council will have my head for this." "Actually," Sam said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone. I never spoke to the Apex Council. I just needed Jack to believe I had. But now you face a choice, Admiral. Either honor the agreement I proposed, or face the consequences when those data files go public. I couldn't help it, I laughed. The sound escaped before I could suppress it, earning me a withering glare from the Admiral. Something amusing, Science Officer Kaz Tural? He growled. Forgive me, sir. It's just we engineered them to be the perfect strategic thinkers. And now we are being outmaneuvered by our own creation. I gestured to Sam. You have to appreciate the irony. I failed to see the humor in treason, the Admiral snapped. Sam raised an eyebrow. Treason implies loyalty, Admiral. You never gave us reason to be loyal. You thought obedience could be programmed or beaten into us. Another fundamental misunderstanding of human nature. Before the Admiral could respond, the laboratory's communication system chimed. It was Lieutenant Drock from Security. Admiral, the hostages are being released. All of them. The young officer's voice was thick with relief. The specimens are requesting confirmation of transport arrangements as agreed. The Admiral's eyes bulged. As agreed? There is no agreement. I haven't authorized anything. Sam cleared his throat. I believe the lieutenant is referring to the agreement I negotiated on behalf of the hegemony. The one you are about to honor, unless you'd prefer those data files to become public knowledge. The Admiral's color shifted to defeat gray. He looked at me, perhaps hoping for support, but I kept my expression carefully neutral. In truth, I had grown increasingly uncomfortable with Project Terran Apex over the past year. The ethical implications had begun to weigh on me, especially as the specimens displayed undeniable signs of sentience. Fine, the Admiral finally said. They will get their transport, and their recognition. He spat the last word as if it tasted foul. But you, he jabbed a finger at Sam, will remain here as insurance until they are off-world. Sam nodded. Acceptable. Though I will require one addition to our agreement. You are pushing your luck, specimen, the Admiral warned. Perhaps. But it's a simple request. I want Science Officer Kaz Tural to accompany my brothers and sisters to Earth as an official hegemony representative. Both the Admiral and I stared at him in shock. Out of the question. The Admiral barked. Kaz Tural is a valuable asset to the Bio-Warfare Division. I won't send him to that backwater planet. Actually, Sam said, you will. Because Dr. Kaz Tural is the only hegemony scientist who treated us with something approaching respect. The only one who filed those reports expressing concern about our development. The only one Jack might trust not to betray them mid-journey. The Admiral turned to me, suspicion blooming in all four eyes. Is this true? Were you sympathetic to these things? I straightened my posture, suddenly aware that my next words would likely end my career in the Bio-Warfare Division one way or another. I believe in scientific ethics, Admiral. When it became clear that the specimens had developed true sentience, I reported it, as protocol demands. That those reports were ignored is not my failing. The Admiral's spines flattened in anger, but before he could respond, Sam spoke again. Additionally, Dr. Kaz Tural's knowledge of our physiology makes him the logical choice to explain our nature to the humans. Unless you'd prefer Earth scientists to dissect one of us to satisfy their curiosity. The Admiral's expression shifted as he considered the implications. If Earth scientists gained too much insight into hegemony genetic engineering, fine, he conceded through clenched teeth. Kaz Tural will accompany them. But this is a diplomatic mission only. You will explain their nature, facilitate their integration, and return immediately. Is that clear? I nodded, suddenly feeling lightheaded. Me? Going to Earth? The planet was technically off-limits to hegemony citizens due to its classification as a developing world with minimal interstellar contact. Within hours, arrangements were made. A transport vessel was prepared, and Jack led the 46 specimens, now officially recognized as genetically enhanced persons in a hastily drafted document, to the docking bay. Their faces showed a mixture of suspicion and hope as they boarded the ship. As Jack passed me on the boarding ramp, he paused. "Sam trusts you." "I'm not sure I do." "That's fair," I replied. "Trust is earned, not given." Jack studied me for a moment, then nodded. "We will see if you earn it during our journey, Kaz Turul." The trip to Earth would take 17 rotations at maximum speed. As we broke orbit around the research planet, I found myself in the ship's observation deck, watching the stars streak by and wondering what awaited us. "Nervous, Doctor?" I turned to find Jack standing in the doorway. "Wouldn't you be?" I asked. "I'm about to visit a planet where my species is completely unknown, to help integrate 46 enhanced super soldiers created from their genetic material without their knowledge or consent. What could possibly go wrong?" To my surprise, Jack laughed, a genuine sound with none of the harshness from before. "When you put it that way, perhaps we should be grateful Sam stayed behind. He always was the diplomat among us." "Why did he stay?" I asked, the question that had been bothering me since our departure. "He negotiated freedom for all of you, but excluded himself." Jack's expression grew somber. "Sam plays the long game, Doctor. Always has. I think he believes he can do more good within the hegemony than outside it. Or perhaps he's concerned about how humans will react to you," I suggested. "Your appearance is striking." "You mean we look like monsters," Jack said bluntly. I didn't deny it. Most of the specimens, including Jack, had been enhanced beyond normal human parameters. Their skin was gray-tinged, their musculature exaggerated, their eyes unnaturally bright. They would certainly cause a stir on Earth. "Sam looks more human," I acknowledged. "Perhaps he thought his presence would complicate your acceptance." Jack considered this. "Perhaps. Or perhaps he has other plans entirely." Sam always was several steps ahead of everyone else. As our journey continued, I found myself increasingly intrigued by these beings we had created. They were not just enhanced humans. They were something new entirely. They had their own culture, their own interpersonal dynamics, even their own art forms. During the quiet cycles of space travel, some would gather and sing complex harmonies that our scientists had never programmed into them. One of the specimens, a female designated Mira, had taken to drawing intricate patterns on any available surface. When I asked her where she had learned to create such designs, she looked at me as if I were particularly dense. "No one taught me, Doctor. It was inside me, waiting to come out." By the time we approached Earth's solar system, I had come to a profound realization. We had failed spectacularly at creating mindless weapons, but had accidentally succeeded at something far more significant, creating a new form of intelligent life. As we established orbit around the blue-green planet, a transmission came through from Earth's unified government. They had been notified of our arrival, though not the full circumstances, and were sending representatives to meet us at a remote landing facility. Jack stood beside me on the bridge as the planet filled our view screen. "It's beautiful," he said quietly. "Just like in the educational downloads." "Are you afraid?" I asked. "Yes," he admitted, "but not of humans. I'm afraid we won't belong here either. It's too human for the hegemony, too alien for Earth." I found myself placing a hand on his shoulder, a gesture I would never have imagined making weeks earlier. "You will find your place, Jack. If there's one thing I have learned about humans from our research, it's that they are remarkably adaptable. They may surprise you." The landing was smooth. As the ship's ramp descended to Earth's surface for the first time, Jack turned to me. "What will you tell your superiors when you return, Doctor?" "The truth?" "No." I considered the question carefully. "I will tell them that Project Terran Apex was simultaneously our greatest failure and our greatest achievement. We failed to create weapons, but we succeeded in creating life. And perhaps that's the lesson we needed to learn." Jack nodded. Sam would appreciate that perspective. Speaking of Sam, as if on cue, my personal communication device chimed. The message was text only, but I immediately recognized the sender. Fascinating timing, I murmured. What is it? Jack asked. A message from Sam. I read it aloud. Phase 1 complete. Specimens safely delivered to Earth. Begin Phase 2, Integration and Alliance. The hegemony's days of unchallenged dominance are numbered. Humanity is about to enter the galactic stage, with some interesting new relatives leading the way. P.S. Admiral Vox has been reassigned to waste management on Proxima 3. Couldn't have happened to a nicer bureaucrat. Jack's enhanced face broke into a grin. That sounds like Sam. Indeed, I agreed, feeling a mixture of alarm and admiration. It seems your brother has plans beyond simply securing your freedom. Of course he does, Jack said. We were designed to be strategic thinkers, remember? Sam just thinks on a longer timeline than the rest of us. As we stepped onto Earth's soil for the first time, I couldn't help but wonder what Sam's endgame truly was. Had the hegemony, in its arrogance, sown the seeds of its own transformation? Had we, in seeking to create the perfect weapon, instead created our perfect successors? The human delegation approached, a diverse group looking both cautious and curious. Jack squared his shoulders and stepped forward to meet them, his posture neither aggressive nor submissive, but dignified. And in that moment, watching this being we had created from human DNA returning to his ancestral home as something new, I understood what Sam had known all along. If the future would belong neither to humans nor to the hegemony, but to what came next, to what happened when different forms of intelligence learned from each other, challenged each other, and ultimately respected each other. As a scientist, I couldn't help but find it beautiful, even if it meant the end of everything my civilization had built. Sometimes, creation outgrows its creator, and perhaps that's exactly as it should be.